You look great. You look great.
Hey Liddy Gang, welcome back to the channel. Actually, welcome to the new space. We have a new type of video that we're making. I want to go ahead and kick off this new series. It's a series of talks where we are having conversations that we normally don't have with people. We tend to shy away from them. So I do want to state, trigger warning. If you feel uncomfortable or you feel that you need to leave, definitely you can. But I do want to assure you this is definitely a safe space. Stay if you can. And in the first talk, I actually want to discuss insecurities. Insecurities, how they show up, why are they here? Like, why, you're setting your life up for good things, and then there's that little bitty voice in, the back of your mind is, saying crazy stuff to you, sometimes leading to self-sabotage, different type of disorders, and many different things that we can get into. If you want to go ahead and follow my social medias below, I'll leave the links down there. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, where you could, send me suggestions on new topics or where we could discuss the current topic. As I stated, the first talk we're going to have is going to be about insecurities, where they come from, why are they there. I'll also talk about, certain things that I've gone through to open up the conversation and, help us feel more comfortable with each other. Like this type of content, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate it, so you don't miss a beat. And let's go ahead and get into the first conversation. I want to call it the big boy, but it's actually really like the little, I don't even want to gender it, the little them in your mind that it's like that little voice that's always telling you, you're not good enough, you can't do this, you can't do that. But just so we understand, like, the actual definition for insecurity, which I'll actually put here, is uncertainty and anxiety about oneself, lack of confidence, and potentially sabotaging good life events to prevent any type of heartache. Insecurities, they are there, which in a strange way, they're there to protect us from future heartache. However, they actually end up causing heartache in most cases. Insecurities, they usually develop within your life. Usually it might be from a specific trauma that you had in your life, different things from being bullied in school, being bullied in your home, having things picked apart about yourself. Also, it could have stemmed from any type of trauma that you experienced as far as like abuse or sexual abuse, mental abuse, any type of abuse. Also, it could stem from any type of pressures or expectations that were set onto you by your family. Not living up to those expectations can really cause an insecurity in the things that you do. So they definitely can come from a multitude of different things in your life, because honestly, they're not going to go away. These self-help people, they can come to you and say, hey, do this, and you won't be insecure anymore. And that's not true. Insecurities, they're not something that's just going to go away magically overnight, or even magically over years. They're just going to always be there. However, what you can do is you can certainly learn to cope with them and live with them and learn how to combat them. My insecurities lied in more so expectations, and then also in weight. I have body dysmorphia. I'll start with body dysmorphia first. I feel like that's the easier one to discuss. So I had body image issues where I wanted to always be thin. And there were actually points in my life I was very thin. I had a fast metabolism when I was younger. I could eat whatever I wanted. Well, a section of my childhood. As I was growing up, I was thicker. And then once I got into like late middle school, late middle school, early high school, then I slimmed out. I was getting active. I really slimmed down. And it actually stemmed from, I hear little things, from your family. Oh, you eat well, you doing this, you thick here, you thick there. And it kind of stuck with me. So once I got into like late middle school, early high school, I actually developed an eating disorder. I stopped eating. It actually got to the point where I was down to, I think I was down to like 115 pounds, and I was really thin. The crazy thing about it was, even though I was that thin, I still thought I was fat.
Oh yeah, it's Tina, that talking tummy.
So that point in my life was really, really hard because I felt guilty about anything that I ate, anything that if I sat down and ate with my family, I like would leave and break down about it. Like, why'd you eat it?
Die, calories, die!
I eventually came out of that. It was pretty much because of my mom. She noticed that I wasn't eating, and she said that I definitely need to make sure I eat so that I stay healthy, I can stay active. Because if I didn't, I couldn't do the things that I love to do. That kind of helped me, move into eating, but the guilt was still there. But even though I started eating because I was so active, I was like on the swim team. I was in band, like marching band and stuff. So I was always out doing something. I still gained weight, but I didn't gain a lot of weight. So when I gained weight, I think when I left high school, I was about like 100, like just shy of 130 pounds. So I gained like 15 pounds or so. So I was still fairly thin. Where everything kicked off was more so when I got to college. When I got to college, everybody gains their freshman 15. And I definitely did. So once I gained that extra 15 pounds or so, I was like 145, 150 in there. That's when the insecurities started to, like the negative self-talk, it started to come back. And it was like, oh, why are you eating all this food? Like, why are you gaining all this weight? You need to stop eating so much, because if you get fat, then you're not gonna have a life. Nobody's gonna want you. All of these crazy, crazy things. And once that started happening, then I again went back to an eating disorder where I stopped eating. And I lost the weight. So I got back down to, it was like 130 pounds or so. And it was crazy because like, I looked sick.
That's ridiculous. Look at me.
It's worse than we thought.
I know. I'm a huge tub of lard.
To me, I look great, but other people were always asking me, are you sick? What's going on? Like, why are you so thin? And yeah, it really took a toll. When you're in that type of state of mind, it stops you from doing certain things. Like I eventually stopped swimming because I didn't like the way that my body looked. I stopped wearing certain things because I didn't like the way my body looked. And it took me a long time to gain the confidence to be able to do those things again. Other insecurities that I have to do more so with expectations of life, pretty much. My parents and, I'm Black, so minority households specifically, there's like this pressure to make sure that you're the exceptional one. So throughout school, I was always the kid who was in advanced classes, who was always doing this, that, and that. Everyone was calling me either lawyer, doctor, blah, blah, blah. My life, to me, seemed as though it was already planned out. I was supposed to be this doctor, this lawyer, who was supposed to do all these things. As I went through school, it really wasn't that bad because in school, I just did my work. I excelled at it. It was fun. Especially when I hit college. And my freshman year, I actually went into like this spiral because there was this expectation for me to be this thing. I was pre-med, so all of these bio classes and stuff, I liked them. However, underneath everything, I knew that's not what I wanted to do. So there was this battle between what I felt like I wanted to do versus what I was expected to do, and I cracked. I really did. I spiraled out. I cracked in, I want to say, my sophomore year of college. And I had to go to therapy to rebuild myself. Insecurities, even though they're small, they can definitely affect your life in big, big ways. The ways in which they affect your life is more so when you begin to sabotage yourself. For me, when it comes to like my body, I was not eating, purging, not going out with friends, not wearing certain things, not moving through life like I should have and live like I should have because I didn't want anyone to see my body because I hated my body. School, my first year and a half, I was like failing because I was so unhappy. I did not do the work. I wasn't trying to do the work. So I sabotaged with school, sabotaged relationships because I couldn't allow someone else to love me because I didn't love myself. And still to this day, to be honest, it's hard for me to accept compliments. I always try to be quote unquote modest, and I don't tend to accept compliments. I kind of throw it back at the other person. I've never been the one to get a compliment and say, oh, thank you. How we sabotage ourselves in our lives really, it's like little things, but they add up to really big events to where you just look back and you're like, oh, wow, I created this whole mess all because I felt like originally I didn't deserve the life that I had or the life that I have. Now, one of the things that happened to me as well is more so dealing with like my sexuality, because I am a gay man. So one of the things that also happened, there was an insecurity there because like with expectations, I expected my life to look a certain way, or my parents did. So one of the things that came from that was when I was older, I moved out, I separated myself. I distanced myself from my family. And now that I look back on it, the reason I did that was because rather than living my truth with my sexuality and have my family reject me, I went ahead and severed those ties myself. Because in that way, to me, what made sense at that time, if I severed it, then I could control how much of the relationship I could still have versus them controlling it and being like, oh, we don't want you at all. So it was a way for me to control the rejection. And I've done that in several relationships, and not just relationships with my family, but relationships with like friends, relationships with partners. And that's something that I definitely work on as well, is learning how to live in the truth of a situation and just facing it head on, because at the end of the day, you never know who is still going to love you in your truth. If you separate those ties initially, you'll never get to that point. With all of this talk about insecurities, my insecurities, I do want to open up the conversation to let you know things that I've done to help, things that have got me to a place where I feel love for myself, I feel confidence for myself. I love to give myself compliments. If I walk past the mirror, oh, you look great today. Like, what about you looks great today? Love to like pump myself up, because I feel like if I pump myself up and I feel good about myself, whatever anybody else has to say, it doesn't matter as much. So I love to give myself compliments. Also, another thing is I love to talk to myself out loud, especially when I'm assessing my emotions or like insecurities or how I feel, like especially if it's a negative day. I might feel bad about myself one day, but I'll ask myself literally out loud, like, hey, Malcolm, like, why do you feel this way? Where is this coming from? And just saying it out loud helps, because it makes you, I don't know, sometimes when you're saying stuff in your head, it just always makes sense. But once you say something out loud and you hear it, it kind of gives you more of a different look on it. It's like, okay, this really does sound kind of crazy. So talking to myself out loud, giving myself compliments. Also finding a place where I'm grateful really helps. Living a life of gratitude. Thinking about the things that I'm happy for. I have a family that loves me. I have a partner that loves me. I have friends that love me. I have coworkers that love me. I have a good job. I'm able to write. I'm able to create content. I have a lot of things that I'm really happy for and I'm grateful for. So looking through the lens of all of that, it makes me happy on the inside, and it also gives me something to fight back, especially when I have moments where my insecurities are, trying to peek through and say, hey, you don't have enough, or hey, your life should look like this, or hey, you're not good enough. I have something to fight back with it. Compliment yourself. Talk to yourself out loud. If you're able to find gratitude in your life, those things really help. And of course, if it's severe, or even if it's not severe, it's always good to have someone to talk to. So I'm a huge advocate for mental health and talking to, professionals if you definitely need to. To close, these were just a few things. So I just wanted to go over what insecurities were, the insecurities that I faced in my life, how I sabotaged, myself in certain situations, and also just some things I learned to help me cope with what I was going through. If you want to discuss, or if you feel safe enough to discuss what you're insecure about and how you got through it, drop it in the comment section below. Please like, comment, subscribe, especially if you like talks like this. I definitely want to continue doing them. And until next time, live your life, love your life, peace.